Okay, so I think I'll just kind of get going. So this is my presentation for the what would you do kind of scenarios. Um, yeah, so there's a little confusion on how to manage this with the team. I haven't been able to really communicate with my team, so I just quickly decided to kind of make my own. So I just did one slide real quick to cover one scenario. Um, and I hope that's sufficient. So I'll just kind of get going. My name is Juan Fuentes, and yeah, we'll kind of keep going. Okay, so the scenario that I chose was from chapter one, and this one I felt was somewhat relevant to me, so I kind of gravitated towards it. And the scenario is I'm currently a manager of this advertising group, and I'm up for promotion to potentially become VP of marketing, which is great. Um, Currently, I'm in the review or the employee review, potentially at the end of the year, where I'm able to grant salary increases of an average of 3%. But I'm also, I'm kind of considering lowering that amount so that I could basically save some money. And according to the scenario in upper management's standpoint, I guess that would make me look good because I would save them some money, right? So the idea here is, okay, what factors would you need to consider in making this decision? How would you proceed, right? So I found this to be somewhat relevant to me because I am currently a manager right now. I manage several engineers. Um, and so this is kind of how we manage salaries at the end of the year too. I'm kind of given this general average that I could distribute across the team, and uh, of course with a cap. So again, this is why I kind of gravitated to this one because it's kind of what I kind of do every year. And what's interesting about this is that I've actually taken an interesting approach, which is quite simple, but it's quite powerful too, right? And the reason why I developed it this way was to create that abstraction or that separation from my personal feelings to being objective when I'm trying to grade the employees or the engineer's performance in the context to give them an adequate or an appropriate increase, right? And so the way I accomplish that, and I've actually trained some of the other department managers on kind of what I do um, to help standardize how we do it across the company, or at least within the engineering groups. But what I've created was this kind of objective structure, right? And I call it a structure because there's several pieces to it, but from a high level, what I've done is I've created three general high level factors or criteria, which, each one you could kind of unpack into, subgroups or sub criteria, right? But from a high level, it's only really three. And the ones that I list here are productivity, quality, and communication, right? And what's important about these is not only do I create these, but I actually communicate these. I make these criteria clear to the employees, clear to the engineers, saying, guys, this is how I'm going to grade you. This is how I'm going to evaluate you at the end of the year. And so you should not have to be, there should be no abstraction. It should be quite clear to you what you need to do if you're after, a larger increase, right? If you want to, get that bigger salary increase, then you know what you need to do. And by communicating these quite clear to the staff, I believe I create this clear, fair, and impartial relationship with them, right? And it creates that transparency, right? They know what I'm looking at. So there should be no question on, what do I need to do to, to move up or get an increase or get promoted. It should be quite clear, right? And I, of course, talk about productivity. So, what are the guys doing? How much are they getting done? How many tasks are they completing in a certain amount of time? The level of quality, right? Every time, a mistake is made or there's a design flaw or it doesn't meet all the requirements, we have to revisit the design and we have to go through this whole engineering change process, right? And those get tracked. So I could actually look back and say, how many engineering changes did you drive in this last year, right? Every time we go through an engineering change, that eats up a lot of overhead, right? So it's becoming really inefficient, both time-wise, financially wise, and schedule wise potentially. So productivity, quality, and communication, right? Communication is quite clear. I make it clear to my employees. I expect you guys to communicate, right? None of us here know it all, and there's senior engineers here that can really mentor and provide a lot of feedback. Vice versa, there's senior engineers, yeah, but you may not know it all, and you should put ego aside and reach out for advice or help or just bounce ideas off of. So communication, I make it clear. And so these are the factors that I consider when making my decision on how I want to handle things. But also, in the context of this scenario, which is, I'm considering this idea of, maybe shortchanging my guys a little bit so then I look good. Well, you know, ethically speaking, it's just malpractice, right? It's just bad business. And ethically, it's just not being fair, um, not abiding by the um, agreed upon procedures of being fair across your team that the company as a whole has agreed to do, right? So from an ethical standpoint, it's just it's uh it's just not working in that ethical kind of or ethical method, right? It's just you're just not being ethically compliant, right? As a manager, especially, right? But I think it even goes deeper than that. It goes into morals, right? It goes into morally, how do you want to live your life, right? And how do you want to be, when you look back in your life, how do you want to judge yourself, right? And so this is why I find this scenario quite interesting because yes, it definitely involves ethics. It kind of it's rooted in ethics, but I think it even goes deeper. It goes into morals, right? Um, and actually, that's actually why I kind of chose chapter one too. And unfortunately, there's no real references here, right? I can't really reference things directly because this is kind of more or less it's deeper than ethics. It's morals, right? And yeah, and chapter one really focused on that, right? Talking about ethics versus morals and then of course legal laws and how that all kind of relates to one another. um, Chapter 2 was really more focused on IT users, licensing, things of that nature. Chapter 1 was really more focused on just the high level understanding of ethics versus morals and laws, right? So yeah, so those are kind of the factors that I would definitely consider, and understanding that I need to be impartial as a manager, right? But the other thing, which is quite interesting, is this concept of yeah, if I shortchange them, it'll make me look good. Well, that's just short-sightedness. And again, it's not ethical. It's morally wrong, but it's also the wrong way of doing things, right? The high level understanding that a manager needs to understand and appreciate is that um, your employees are the most important resource, right? More than money, material, or talent, or not talent, but in the context of resource, we're always talking about labor versus materials or whatnot. But employees by far are the most important resource. So by promoting them and inspiring and motivating them and making them more efficient and making them top performers indirectly makes you look good, right? And it improves your performance as a manager indirectly by motivating and inspiring and creating top performers within your group. So that's really the goal that all managers should really set their aim for, right? So again, that's kind of how I handled this scenario. I thought it was quite neat. Again, it's very relevant to what I do, and so that's kind of how I would address this scenario in exactly what I would do or what I currently do. So yeah, that's my presentation.